Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going deep into online communities and, negativity. We're looking at a Reddit post that asks, why are so many Redditors such miserable people?
Hmm. A question that really got people talking. Hundreds of responses. Gives us a chance to analyze not only what people think about Reddit, but also why they might feel that way.
Yeah, like everybody had something to say. The original poster called Redditors, uh, joyless, pedantic people who just love arguing and debating. And then get this, the post itself got locked. No more comments.
Really. That kind of says it all, doesn't it? A conversation about negativity shut down maybe by negativity?
Yeah. So what are some of the viewpoints that came from this? One thing that jumps out is this idea of echo chambers, this tension between subreddits being negative, but also places to connect with people who get you.
Right. It's like they can be both. On
Yeah.
one hand, you have reinforcing biases, when you're only with like-minded people. But on the other hand, people are finding their people brilliant little spaces. One comment said, connecting over shared passions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Where else are you going to find people who love like 18th century Hungarian poetry? Reddit can be a haven for that. But then there's this whole thing about anonymity. Does hiding behind a username make people more rude?
Well, there's definitely a feeling that anonymity can lead to negativity. One comment described them as keyboard warriors who majority of the time can't say what they want in real life, so it's like they feel bolder
Like
online.
the internet is a mask and people lose their inhibitions. But there's another side to this. Some people say anonymity is good.
Right. It can be a safe space to express feelings that people might not share in person. One comment even compared Reddit to a pressure relief valve.
Hmm, that's a great analogy. Like Reddit becomes this place to vent frustrations that you wouldn't tell people in your real life.
Exactly. It lets people be vulnerable and let off steam in a way that's harder face to face, makes you think about online communication and how anonymity can be both good and bad.
Okay, so we've got echo chambers, we've got anonymity. Another thing is this idea that Reddit attracts people who are already unhappy. One comment said, happy people with a social life don't use Reddit a lot. What do you think about that?
Well, does Reddit make people miserable or do miserable people just go to Reddit? It's hard to say.
Good point. And then some people say happy people were just less vocal online. Like with restaurant reviews, you hear more about bad experiences than good ones.
Oh, yeah. You see this silent majority online where the loudest people don't really show how everyone feels.
It's like we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg when it comes to how people really feel on Reddit.
Yeah.
So much going on under the surface.
Exactly. And that's what makes this so interesting, trying to understand people on this digital space.
Yeah, it really is. It's like we get to peek into these different views, all through Reddit. Speaking of experiences, there's this other idea in the comments I want to talk about being terminally online.
Oh, yeah. This is important. A lot of comments said too much internet, especially on places like Reddit, can make you more negative and less connected to real life.
This reminds me of something I've been thinking about. One comment that stuck with me said, Reddit is a hub for the chronically online.
Hmm.
And then someone else said people should form connections and share experiences to find meaning. Like they were saying, get off the computer and go live your life.
It makes sense, right? With all this tech in our lives, when you're mostly talking to people online, you forget what it's like to talk face to face. All those little things that help us understand each other and the joy of just being present in the real world.
It makes you think, is this just Reddit or is it bigger than that? Like, are we all struggling with this as technology takes over?
You're right, it's a bigger conversation. About finding a balance between online and offline. Reddit might be just one example, but we all need to think about this. How much time are we online, and how is it affecting us and our relationships? Such a good point. Easy to get lost in scrolling and forget about real-life connections. But hey, let's change gears for a sec. We got to talk about something. Reddit being self-aware.
Yeah. It seems like Redditors know that their platform is known for negativity. Like in all these comments, we see humor. They make fun of themselves. Like they know they can be a bit much.
Oh, yeah. One comment said, it's a running joke that Redditors suck ass. And another one joked about getting in trouble for saying Redditors like they think the platform is too sensitive.
Like a defense mechanism, right?
And
They laugh at their problems but don't really own up to them.
exactly, like saying, we know we can be a handful, but at least we can laugh at ourselves, right?
Right. And humor can be a good thing. It helps to relax and makes people feel like they're part of the group. It's like a shared understanding. So we've gone through all these different ideas. What does it all mean? Is Reddit all about misery or is there more to it? Feels like we've just started to understand this whole thing. What do you think?
Well, looking at all these comments, I don't think it's easy to say if Reddit is all about misery or not. Reddit's like any online community. I guess it shows all the complicated and weird parts of being human, and yeah, that includes negativity.
I like that. Not that Reddit is just a sad place, but it's more like a mirror,
Hmm.
you know, showing us all the different emotions and experiences we have. You got people trying to connect people, letting out their frustrations, people arguing about stuff. It's like all of us, but online.
Exactly. That's what makes it so interesting to look at, like a real live ecosystem of how people interact.
But is it really live if it's not like real face-to-face interaction?
That's a good question. Maybe it's a different kind of live, shaped by how we talk online. It might not be the same as being in person, but it also opens up ways to talk and connect that we wouldn't have offline.
That makes sense. So if we had to sum up some key takeaways for our listeners from this whole deep dive, what would they be?
I think the first thing is online communities like Reddit aren't all the same. They're super diverse with different groups for all kinds of interests, beliefs, personalities.
And with that, I think it's important to remember that being anonymous can be good and bad. It lets people be themselves, but it can also lead to bad behavior. Online communities need to find ways to keep people accountable without taking away their privacy.
Yeah, for sure. And lastly, I think the biggest takeaway is that we need to be self-aware, both on our own and as a group. We got to think about how talking online changes how we see other people and how we add to the feeling of these digital spaces.
It goes back to that saying, treat others how you want to be treated,
Yep.
right? Even or maybe especially online where you can be anonymous.
Yeah. And even more importantly, to be aware of how being online affects us. Are we in communities that make us feel good, or are we stuck in negativity and fighting?
That's something we all need to think about. This has been a really interesting deep dive. I feel like I understand Reddit and online communities in a whole new way.
Me too. And to everyone listening, think about your own experiences online. How do they affect how you see the world? What can you do to make your online life more positive and meaningful for you and the people around you? Remember, we have the power to change our online experiences. Until next time, keep exploring and be curious.